Welcome to Getting Ghosted. This is an Intuitive Soul Collective podcast, and I'm your host, Allie Horner. This is an interesting energy week. I've got my guides here who are wanting to share some messages, and so I'm going to see what they've got to say. Eric is over here sitting. I can see my group over here as well. I know that Joy has been hanging around, and it's been a very, very interesting energy week. I noticed for myself yesterday, I literally had aches and pains all over the lower half of my body out of nowhere. I had no idea why they were there. I hadn't done anything differently. It was like my joints were aching. And then I've noticed for the most part, otherwise I've been feeling really, really good. Like the energy has finally shifted. It's been a lot higher. I haven't felt as weighed down anymore, it's just been feeling like a lot of collective energy shifted, a lot of breakthroughs this last week. I've noticed it in all my readings, people getting up in their heads and almost like, once they can process what they need to process. I kept seeing a lot of people really needing to have a good cry or face some sort of emotion that was really trapped beneath everything else. And once they really felt that emotion and felt that feeling, and really said to myself, it's okay to just be angry for, a minute. It's okay to just cry really hard for a minute. It's okay to just be really sad. It's okay to just be like, oh, I'm so scared, that's okay. Often when we can feel a feeling really fully, it actually only lasts for 90 seconds and it fully processes through the body. So help that along and allow your body to do that, and your mind will feel clearer. There is a lot of science behind this, so don't take my word for it. Go and do your own research and Googling, okay? But in addition, so what I was noticing is for myself, some overcoming of some hurdles the last 2 weeks, and I've seen it in other people, and it was very fast and it was almost like surprising and unexpected. And for me, I can often feel when energy is going to change. Again, free will is always a thing. And sometimes it's like, I'll see exactly what's going to change it. And sometimes, especially for myself, it'll surprise me. So it was very interesting. I noticed it for myself. It was like an area of my life that felt energetically very leaky for a long time, where I was doing everything I could with what I had. All of a sudden, after I had this emotional release come up, and I just finally said, and I've been saying to the universe, universe, I need help with this. Please bring me creative solutions. And when you are creating a prayer, your emotion and the energy of upward motion through your emotions is very important. I see Eric rubbing his hands together ooh, we're getting to the good stuff. He's like, this is what we want to talk about. I never know when they come through and they're like, we want to talk about something. We got something to share. I can feel them there, but they don't always tell me what it is beforehand. So, and that allows it for me. If you guys don't know me, I prefer to do blind channelings and blind reads, meaning I know nothing about the topic. I know nothing about the person. I know nothing about what's going to come through. They don't give me any hints beforehand. I prefer it that way. I know not everyone does that. I like to have no background information. It allows for a clearer channeling in my perspective for me. So so with that energy and intent, I was like, okay, universe, I really need help. I'm open to creative solutions, bring them along. And you guys, I shit you not, within another day, I had all of these things pop into my head. It was like, do this, do that. Here's this, here's that. In my energy around it went from fear to excitement. And I want to remind you guys that anxiety and excitement are actually the same physiological response in the body. It's just our mind that tells us a story around and creates a bias around what we're feeling and tells us and interprets it. So this is important for those of you who are clairsentient too, because sometimes people misunderstand what they are sensing or feeling, especially if we have a lot of trauma that would make us confuse our feelings or might skew where our minds would go in interpretation, which is an important piece of developing your psychic senses. Is you're going to have to work through a lot of layers of that type of learning and experimenting. Now, that said, after I let myself feel, I had all of these really big ideas come through, and it was like, just go, go, go. It didn't feel like it was just ideas, though. It was very crisp, clear. Every time I sat down, I would get the exact next step. I remember I even went and sat outside, and there's this really lovely spot in the park that I like to go meditate really early in the morning. No one's really there yet. It's very crisp and cold. It's a very safe park too. I really feel the spiritual energy in that area. There's big old trees. It's very grounding. So I go and sit in that park, and I sat down and closed my eyes, and I was transported and surrounded by my loved ones and guides, and got very clear next steps telepathically. It was like bada bing, bada boom around a whole bunch of different things. And then again, like I just keep continuing to get next steps. And so I was like, this is a really good week to move forward. If you are, something that A Course in Miracles says is all that's necessary is for you to be willing, essentially. You don't need to always know what to do right away. You don't need to figure it out on your own. Just be willing. Just be willing to change things. Just be willing to ask. Just be willing to move forward. So that's what happened for me. And I found myself having a lot of very fast, here we go, bada bing, bada boom, next steps, next actions. And when you are listening to spirit, when you're listening to your higher mind, your higher guidance, whatever you call it, the Holy Spirit, your ing, as Gabby Bernstein used to call it, your inner guidance system, your intuition, your guides, your angels, your loved ones, whatever works for you. When you are in that energy, when your brain will get crisp and clear, and you will find the connections that you might have been missing before. You will find the information that seemed to elude you. It's like missing puzzle pieces come in and fill in the gaps in the puzzle more and more, so that you know how to help things connect, so that you know where to go, what to do, what to say, and to whom. But one of the things that I've noticed that everyone has had in common, and I've seen this cycle play out for many years. And if you really think about it, you likely have too. Every time there's some big problem that's growing. The person does what they can. Sometimes they avoid it. But this big problem often comes from some sort of, in the lack of ability to fully deal with it, fix it, etc., often comes from the person's own, lack of education around it. So sometimes it's like a lack of information that they have, but why are they being unwilling to find that information that they're missing, or trust other people to help them, etc. And so what happens is there's a big emotion that builds. There's a big current of frustration, of anger, of hurt, etc. Sometimes it can be from someone else actually tangibly hurting you or betraying you, or a system failing you, or if you kind of get what I'm saying? So it comes from somewhere for people, something that is causing almost like an internal loop or trauma. The person overthinks it, they overanalyze it, they sit in their heads with it. And so therefore they often avoid doing anything around it. If they do something around it out of that energy, it's misguided and often futile. Right? It's like their efforts are futile, which discourages them even more and keeps them in the loop even more and keeps that problem not fully dealt with. Okay. And so the energy builds and builds and builds, and it can begin to create a lot of problem in this person's life. Finally, they get to the point where the situation comes to a head. For some people, this might be they get, whatever they were avoiding doing at work, whatever they were not admitting they needed help with, etc. They get reprimanded at work. This might be the couple that is in the relationship. One of the people just senses something's off for a really long time. They know and they know and they know, but they're avoiding what they sense and what they feel and what they know. And finally it comes to a head and comes out in a big fight. Or the other partner truly is keeping secrets, but because they're not, talking about what they're going through, maybe they lost their job. But the other partner, and so they're keeping it from them, trying to find a job. They don't want to look vulnerable, and they start to feel worse and worse and worse. The other partner picks up on this, notices a slight behavior change, notices the smile, the light is going away behind their eyes, notices that just something just feels off. And they notice that their partner is starting to pick things up, and they're trying in their own effort for self-preservation to lie to them, and to, spare them of the worry and the pain. They're afraid that they're going to feel even more ashamed than they already do, that their partner's going to be disappointed in them because they lost their job, even if it wasn't their own fault. Maybe the company just did a mass layoff and it had nothing to do with their skills or qualifications. Maybe they were perfectly qualified, but that partner relies on their income too. And so now all of a sudden, this person feels ashamed, so they're trying to hide it and scrambling to find some other solution and do something else. They don't want to talk about it until they've got the solution there. I know someone like this, and I'm going to tell you, they're a prime saboteur of all good situations in their lives, because by the time they come up with a solution, they've figured it all out on their own and not accounted anyone else's thoughts or perspectives in. So they are trying to be 90 days ahead of everyone else, or 60 steps out ahead, and everyone else is left feeling like, I don't understand what's going on. Why was this the only solution we came up with? Why are you now dictating it to me? And now you're leaving me flailing and having to catch up with you. And this is not work for me. Like this solution is not a good solution for me. You should have talked to me about this. We're supposed to be a team. So it's a very interesting dynamic. And so these people, let's say the partner is picking up on this over and over and over, and the other one is finally starting to feel like pressured enough. They get in a big fight, and it finally all comes out, and they finally tell them it's, but the other partner goes, "Are you cheating? Like, you've been lying, you're hiding things from me. I can feel it. You're acting different and you're gone, and the other person's like, what? No, I'm not cheating on you. I lost my job, and I've been trying to run around to different job interviews and meeting with people over coffee or drinks. I'm trying to network. I'm trying to, do all these things. I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to be worried and blah, blah, blah." I mean, the other partner got in their head and was getting scared. And they're like watching their partner do all these weird things. So they're misinterpreting what the partner's doing. The other partner could have just as easily just communicated over it, and just said to them, hey, here's what's going on, right? And so we see these things come to a head. And once we finally say, here's how I'm feeling, and we have this big emotional upset, is often when we have the big piece, which is the surrender moment. This is the moment of letting go. This is the moment of saying, fuck it, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. I just don't know. And you know what? Universe, I'm doing everything I can think of to do, and it's not working, and I need help. I need to get outside sources. I need help. And often it's usually that the person is trying to do things the same way they've always done them. They're going back to the same things over and over. They know it doesn't work, or it doesn't make them happy, or it doesn't sustain long term, and they're tired. Like, they're exhausted. So there is an exhaustion in a full mental, emotional release and a full mental exhaustion that comes from this letting go. And it is meant to be, because when source and spirit, God, Allah, Buddha, Krishna, Jesus, the universe, Gaia, whatever you pray to, when that can come rushing in, things all of a sudden go calm. So this often happens when we have this big, we call it come to Jesus moments, right? So it can be you're, laying there sobbing because you're like, I just don't know what to do, or this just won't go away. I've done everything I can. I don't know. And that is when you will hear it from in your heart, like, please help me. And it's like your soul saying, okay, I've got you. You just had to ask. You just had to let me in. I am right here. I've been here the whole time, but you needed to let go and let me in. You needed to stop trying to figure this out on your own. Stop trying to hide this. Stop trying to avoid it. And then I could rush in. This is why we meditate. This is why the advice always comes up for people in readings to walk, to meditate, to swim. These are forms of meditation. Meditation is the receiving. When we are doing without asking, when we are avoiding the feeling and the emotion, we avoid the very energies, the very state of mind that can let in the answers from spirit and source and God and our beloved Marys and our Kuan Yins and our Sophias and our divine grace. These are the things that we need. We have to let go, but it has to be done in such a state that we, in reverence for all that is, say, I don't know all the answers. I am willing to be shown. And that means that you may receive guidance, intuitions that are outside your comfort zone. to do. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need to be doing is not what you need to be doing. That may mean that you admit that what you need like what you have been doing isn't right, that it didn't work for you. And the beautiful thing about your guides and about source and spirit is that they don't judge this. They understand humans. They understand what Eckhart Tolle calls the pain body, and how the pain body can mess with the mind, and how it can keep us trapped in these conscious or unconscious loops, that it can keep us trapped in thinking and thinking and thinking instead of feeling and allowing. And often when we allow a feeling to just come in and we fully surrender to it, we find that peace that passeth all understanding on the other side of that feeling. It doesn't mean we'll never have another negative, or I guess perceived negative emotion ever again. And I say perceived because perceived is our perception is that they're negative. How do we know that these emotions aren't also of God? That God doesn't also use these emotions to bring us to take action or bring us to allow more love into our lives, that there isn't love waiting on the other side of them. And so it's incredibly important that we allow ourselves to feel, because the surrender moment that comes in has to come in full reverence and respect for ourselves and our lives. And so this is what I have been seeing with everyone over these last weeks, is that a lot of people are getting trapped in this really heady energy because they are avoiding. And when they're in that heady energy, the irony is that even if they come to get a reading from me in that, they will repeat their question over and over, even though their guides have already answered it several times. And this is because when we are anxious and scared, our brain, and again, don't take my word for this, go and Google this, go and look this up, and it will explain the whole physiological side of what happens to the brain and why this is true. Okay. So, but the brain, when we are scared, when we're really anxious, when we're in that loop, it can't hear a damn thing anyone else is saying. The answer could be right in front of us and we won't see it. This is what chronic anxiety, stress, and fear does to the brain. It actually lowers and diminishes your cognitive processing. It also lowers and diminishes your memory. So sometimes I find myself as a psychic going, this person doesn't need a reading. They need to sit down and cry. They can't hear a damn thing until they do that. They will not be able to receive a damn thing. They're not going to believe anything that's said. They're going to push away everything, and they're just going to go on thinking, and staying in the tunnel that they're in until they go and dance or jump up and down for a couple of minutes, go for a long run or a walk. When you are feeling that way, the worst thing you can do is sit in that problem and stew on it. You need to go move your body. I'm telling you guys right now, that is the best thing. I also want everyone on here to swear and promise that they are going to go look up different states of the nervous system and what to do to shift states, okay? Because that will allow you to understand your mind and body better so that you can begin to take steps, little steps every day, that will allow you to thrive, okay? And then you will find that your mind is getting crisper and clearer over time, that your thoughts are making more sense, that you go into those loops less and less often. And when you do, they don't last as long. Maybe just I noticed when I came out of my anxiety tunnel that I was in for a very long time, over 10 years ago, what happened for me is I noticed it was like little by little. And then suddenly I had a huge, oh my God, I haven't had any anxiety in forever. And that came from me moving and meditating. And it made a massive, massive, massive difference. Okay. And it wasn't more complicated than that. Okay. And so the other piece of this that Eric is over here raising his hand. He's like, I want to talk. And I've got Sam as well. So they're coming in and they're saying, we want people to understand that this energy, Eric's this energy is one that is full. He's doing the hands around the ears where you point your fingers and you spin them in circles. He's it's making people feel cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And Sam's loco. He's bonkers, people, and he's showing people grabbing their hair and pulling it up, ripping out their hair. He's just people are pulling their hair out because they can't seem to get their heads on straight. And they said, we keep going around to people and they're showing putting their hands on people's shoulders, your loved ones, your guides, angels. He said, there's so many spirits on the other side filled with love and bliss and harmony and grace that are trying to come around and just put their hands on their shoulders and be hey, it's all right. Take a breath. let it in. And they said, but you got to let it in, man. And he said, but some of you that are more receptive and open, you'll be able to feel that presence. You'll be able to understand when we're coming in, when we're giving you a little bit of a boost of energy, we're in a boost of clarity. And he goes, we always try to give a little bit more openness first. So we try to get you to open. And then in that openness, we can come in and we can help you. He's like, we can kind of like help if we're asked. He said it has to be asked or requested. We can kind of help scoop out and clear any of that gunk that might be sitting in your energy centers. And he said, but you can do this as well by doing some yoga, doing some stretching, and Eric goes, or singing. Singing's really good. And he was like, that's a good one. And then Sam is saying, and playing games. That can be really fun. And he said, but stay away from mind games. And he's showing like someone like getting out and playing basketball or playing like hopscotch. And he said, like things that are fun, things that make you feel little, jumping rope. And he's saying like, things that get you around other people in a better energy. And they said, you wouldn't believe how fast what's going on in your heart and head and your heart and your body can change if you go into an environment where people are feeling good and chit-chatting and talking. And this was something that I love as well. It helps me get into really clear work mode. I like to go sit in coffee shops. Even if it's just for a couple hours or 30 minutes, it totally changes my state because everyone is just sitting there. There's a quiet like buzz. It's not too loud. People are studying, people are reading, people are chit-chatting about fun things. There's a couple that brings like a chess set to one of the coffee shops I go to. And sometimes there's really nice music in there and it just creates this like really nice energy. I can literally see the energy shift when I'm in there and everyone's nervous systems are so settled even though they're drinking coffee. And this is what happens. And this is one of the aspects of how brainwaves and nervous systems can sync up. It actually is a real phenomenon and it's really, really neat. And so I tend to get in that really easy work focus there. Also, as someone with ADHD, this is like a body doubling thing that helps me a lot. It's just, it just is like, when I know I have a lot of things that have to get done, especially a lot of little productive things, that is the place that I go. I don't do that work at home. I find that doing that at home, there's a lot of distractions. So, and I need, and there's also like, if my son's at school or he's at his dad's house, I don't have that body double there. But my son and I, when he is here, can have a lot of productivity with cleaning because once we get into that mode, we almost just like the ball bounces back and forth like we're a team very easily, energetically. So again, he's saying that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And he said, there's so many, and he's showing like energy hotspots and energy systems. And he said, you guys all need to give yourselves permission to get out the house and do what you need to do. He said, it's okay to say, I need to go for a walk. I need to shift my state before I make a decision on this. I need to stop thinking on this. I need to shift gears and focus on something else. I need to stretch. I need to do yoga. I need to go have some really big belly laughs with a friend. And they said, we know it sounds like, oh, well, you're just going to give us basic. And they're like, yeah, man, because basic advice works. Like, they're like, y'all just need to do it. Like, and that's your problem. They're just going, you guys think too much. You're overthinking too much. And they said, if you haven't noticed, the basic advice that people get from spirit doesn't really change. And it's because you need to do the basics and the basics work. And they're like, we're not saying this will cure serious depression or serious mental health disorder. No, we're just saying for the average person. And they said, and even a lot of neurodivergent people, this stuff can be very helpful. So they're saying like not all cases, but most of them. So like y'all like go back to your basics, right? And then Sam is stepping forward. He did a little bow. And he's saying, the other piece I want people to know is with the current waves of energy, I just heard heat wave from the Muppets Christmas Carol. I don't know if anyone's seen that. It's the thing that the little rats yell. Anyways, so he said, with the heat wave that's going on, and he said a lot of people feel more agitation. And also he said the Earth's atmosphere, there's been pressures and things are changing and rocking and rolling. And he's showing forest fire smoke. He's showing there's been a lot of weird stuff going on, but also a lot of it is very natural for what's been going on with, he's saying like heat, humidity, the rising and falling of atmospheric pressure. He's just like, there's a lot of like science behind this, but he's saying there there's also a lot of collective distress, especially in the Western world. But there's forest fires in other parts of the world too. So we can't forget that they go on elsewhere. There was one in, I believe, the south of France as well. And so they're saying, so there are these other things that are going on, and Mother Earth in her little consciousness bubble, she'll do as much as she can to help it. And so they said, want you to understand though, during this time, there are a lot of things that can really impact your physical systems. And for a lot of you, you're very sensitive. So you're going to pick up on these things, and you're going to be in your heads like, what is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? Why is it? Why do I feel like this? Blah, blah, blah. And they're like, it's the pollen count. It's gone up. It's grass pollens. Those are impacting people more. There's more pesticides and new pesticides being used. So that's a problem. You know what I mean? They're just like, some of these things are more science than they are spiritual. And they said, especially with, again, the forest fires and stuff, people will be like, why am I so tired? Why am I so heavy? Well, there's less oxygen in the air. When there's less oxygen, you're going to be tired. And that's true. Like, people come up to higher altitude and they're like, why am I so tired? And it's like, because you're at higher altitude. There's lower oxygen here. So it's a very logical thing. But a lot of people, if they don't have scientific knowledge of that, they don't understand. And so they said, not everything is some weird spiritual thing. And they're like, or it has like some esoteric spiritual explanation. Like, they're like, it does, but like, it doesn't. Like, you can understand it on a human level, and it's just very practical. They're showing a lot of oxygen masks being used too. And they said the other piece is, there are still like certain summer illnesses, and they said some of them, because people's immune systems may function much better in the summer, they said like warmth, heat, and stuff, and more people being more physically active in the summer usually. They said a lot of people only get the subtleties, like only subtle symptoms, so even when there's stuff going around, you may feel like a little off here and there, but then you're really like, well, I didn't get a full fever, and I don't know if I caught this. And it's like, you might have, but you didn't have much symptoms of it. So they're reminding of the very basic, like, human pieces of this. They're like, just because we're spirits doesn't mean we don't understand what actually goes on the planet or science. Now, the other piece they're saying is there is a change and a shift that's happening 2025 to 2027 and beyond. But they said the primary space for this shift is going to be starting in these 2 years. They're showing the evolution of the body and the energy. And they said Allie's done a lot of Allie's done a lot of channeling on this already in previous episodes, and I just put more on my TikTok this week. So please go and do that one. It's Spirit Speaker 25, no dashes, no periods, no spaces, no other numbers or anything. And so they keep saying this is a really important energy to understand. It's important for you to grasp this, because as things evolve and change very rapidly, we're going to see evolutions happening within human beings during this time period as well. This is not just the new humans being born. This is the ones that are already here, that are already on the planet. This is coming from higher guidance as well. I'm starting to feel, and I can see the energy changing around it. So they're saying the energy that is coming from beyond is trying to help with this transition. It's trying to help with this change, but this change is not going to be something that you notice in people's external appearance, except for those of you guys who are very sensitive clairvoyantly. You may begin to notice little things that you see physically with people. They said the key thing is it is the evolution of the solar plexus. This is the evolution of the willpower. This is evolution of divine will, where you will begin to feel more and more of your own willpower working through you, your inner voice working through you. And they said some ways that Allie has talked about and seen this evolution happening is in her own life, is that in her readings, we have shifted her from guiding people and from telling people what's going to happen, as a lot of guides often will try to assure people of like, well, here's where the energy is going predominantly. Here's where the strongest energy train is going. Here's what's most likely to happen if. They said, now this can be helpful at times, but we have been guiding her away from this increasingly over the last 2 years. And she channels what we say. She brings through only what we will tell her to give to the person. She does not bring through more than that or less than that. So what we have begun to do is reinforce different lessons for people repetitively as her guides and teachers, especially for the collective that she works with, because they are in need of this. So we have begun providing just guidance and advice for the person to make their own decisions where they are, to listen to their own inner voice. We have guided her to teach increasingly again. I did take a couple of years off of teaching. I used to teach a lot more years ago, and I took a couple of years off, and it was almost like I was resting, like preparing for this time period, in a sense. And I remember getting messages like, you're resting, you're resting, you're resting. And I was like, man, well, could we do this differently, or what's, and they were like, no, we need you to rest because this is going to be needed. It makes more sense now. And I think it's going to make even, I think there's going to be more things happening in the future, which I talked about on TikTok and other episodes which is why I personally had to rest. And I think a lot of other psychics and mediums needed to do so too. So they keep saying, yes, this is it. It's the change in the solar plexus for accessing willpower. And rather than personal will, it is more the divine will. It is more the understanding of I need do nothing. Everything can be done through me. So we will begin to shift and change. They're showing bridging the gap between fear and love, and how the energy can move more smoothly throughout the whole body, up and down the body. This is also a main teaching that they bring through. If you've ever done a column of light meditation, or done the column of light in the beginning of a meditation, that will be more and more prevalent, where people will be feeling that energy of liquid light moving throughout their bodies. But they need to also consciously allow that to happen, because that makes a really big difference. A lot of us, our energy gets stuck at the solar plexus, and it's almost like we get stuck in the upper chakras, or we get stuck in the lower. I think we can really tell when people are stuck in their lower and completely cut off from their higher chakras. It's very obvious. I think for people who are would be therapists and things like that, or people who work with neurodivergent people, you can tell when they're stuck in their upper chakras and their energy is not going all the way down into the lower chakras and into the ground. They, like a lot of people with ADHD and autism, I tend to see their energy up higher and not grounded in as often. So they will have to take conscious measures to do that. They will have to create routines and structures that allow them to feel their feet on the ground, and especially because of the ability for them to get in the head and then overstimulated. So that's just like an example. But they keep saying that's exactly it. Is the solar plexus is like the big connector piece, other than the heart. And a lot of people with this heart awakening that is happening, where we're coming back to our heart, they said, you all feel it, everyone that's very empathic, it's painful at first. It's difficult, but it's difficult when you're not grounded in your lowest chakras and your sense of self. It's difficult when you're not allowing in higher guidance around it. It's difficult when you haven't been using your throat and your voice to speak for yourself, or to make and you haven't felt your own personal power and divine will to make your own decisions and set your own boundaries and stay true to your own path and your own knowings and your own strength. And so what we're going to be seeing more and more is people wrestling with this over the next couple of years. And we're already seeing it. And I know a lot of people are already feeling the energy in the solar plexus. I know I absolutely have. It can feel anything from like a pressure building to nauseousness. Although I will say nausea can be, of course, symptoms of physical ailments and illnesses. So please don't feel like, it's just my solar plexus, and then right off getting medical attention. If you feel you need medical attention, please go get it. We love doctors over here. And we know that, most of them are there for a reason, and they have, they can help with certain physical things. So yes, so they keep saying, but yes, so it might feel like butterflies, it might feel like a buzzing, it might feel like an opening of that chakra. The other piece is, with this evolution, we will see a lot of people, they said very obviously, how this will show up in how people are conducting themselves, how they're leading. And they said, with this chakra igniting, as you can see, we are making the change from me to we. It's a shift in consciousness. This is what happens when we shift from fear to love. It's almost like an imbalance in the energy that can be cleared out increasingly over the next decades. However, this is an evolutionary shift. It is not just a choice, but they keep saying, don't fight the evolution, or you will make yourselves really sick and sad. They also said, this is also going to be coming, and we're going to see it playing out on the global stage. This is not to be feared. This is something, though, that your as you evolve in this sacral or this solar plexus chakra, you will find yourself with more solutions and more willpower to stand up for yourself or for others. You will know where to go, what to do, what to say, and to whom, and you will have the strength and the allowing to actually do it. Because strength is about allowing strength, not about forcing strength. And they said on that note, people will go from force to flow. Instead of from flow to force. This is a big piece that they've been bringing through me for the last decade. I used to do entire channelings on flow and force because it was such a big message they wanted to share. And so it's very important that we're recognizing that this energy at this time is going to be one where we're going to be evolving as a species and as a society. And they said, but you're going to, again, see this playing out on a global scale in quite a different way than it's going to be in quite a different way than what people would think it has to play out as. And they said, so we want to remind you of this. And of course, in this time period when you're coming into a sense of personal power and collective power is when you have more forces than ever that are stepping up and are saying we're going to slap handcuffs on you. We're going to, we're going to change your laws. We're going to strip your rights away. We're going to blah, blah, blah. We're going to, drop bombs on these people for existing. And we're going to blah, blah, do this and do that. And they said, these things have always been happening, right? Like that you've certainly been in countries and economies and social systems which wanted people to be oppressed and repressed before. But the key thing is that now that more and more of you have had a taste of freedom and it's starting to be taken away again, or there's the threat of it being taken away again, you are having this it's almost like they're showing it coordinating with the shift in the solar plexus, which makes a lot of sense. For those of you who aren't very familiar with the solar plexus chakra or the chakra system, feel free to Google that because it will make a lot of more sense once you look it up. So they're saying you have more to give, you have more to do, but we are coming into a creative evolution where we exit the overthinking mind and we begin to allow our heart and our upper chakra to lead us, and we also allow the ground to support us. We allow our life force energy to pour through all of our bodies instead of being cut off from one area or the other. So I see people with almost dark spots in their field, and this is not bad. It's it can be illness or areas where they feel shut off from that area or the energy isn't flowing. Let's just say the energy isn't flowing there is readily. They said, so what is needed right now is an allowing of the energy to fill the whole system, to move throughout the whole body. And it is the same way on the planet. Allow the energy to flow throughout the whole planet. The planet needs that energy everywhere, not just in certain places. So it's kind of like a mirroring effect. Okay, it sounds like they're done talking. I hope that this was fun for everyone. If you want me to do more channelings like this to talk about what's going on, feel free. I will be here, and I'm always looking for new topics and questions that you guys bring to put on the podcast. There's a little podcast submission on my website. I have it linked up in the show notes, and I hope that this was fun for you guys today. Alrighty, toodles.